Welcome to the Fifth Estate. Due to public demand, we will discuss how to retire Raila Odinga and how to retire him in 5 installments.
Lazima kama unataka kurudi Kibera wakuje waombe msamaha, wapige maragoti na waseme mara ngapi? Mara 3. Raila Baba, Raila Mwana na Roho Mtakatifu. Hatutaki mchezo.
Rule number 1, Baba is always right. Rule number 2, Baba is never wrong. Rule number 3, if rule number 2 fails to apply, refer to rule number 1 above.
The Book of Void by Miyamoto Musashi. The Book of Void is about humility. Musashi is asking us to be consciously competent of what we do not know. Consciousness as the state of being awake and aware of one's surroundings. That no matter how much we know, how much we train, how much we learn, there will always be a vast universe of things we do not know and do not understand.
The first stage in the decline of a people begins when the prince develops an appetite for flattery and for platitudes. And when he gets to a place where he begins to believe that he knows and understands everything. And therefore, the idea of void and embracing that which he does not know becomes a total no-go area. But also and fundamentally, when the prince begins to believe the platitudes and the flattery that is being given to him without him separating himself from that particular, so from those renditions and saying, I could be Baba Mwana Roho Mtakatifu, but I'm not exactly that. But the prince does not distance himself from these platitudes and flatteries, and he begins to believe in them. What happens is that he becomes the flatteries. And when he becomes the flatteries and he is approached by danger, then he is unable to deal with danger. He's unable to deal with defeat, because if he has been told that he is Baba Mwana, Baba Roho Mtakatifu, how can he be defeated? How can he lose an election?
Should resign, ought to resign, should resign, ought to resign, should resign, to resign, need to resign right now.
I feel very hurt because I've had a very distinguished career in this country.
The Book of Fire by Miyamoto Musashi. In this book, Musashi advises 3 things. The first one is to always stand with the sun behind you so that you're not blinded by its brightness. And this is what aerial warriors like fighter pilots always do. The second thing that Musashi advises is that you must always stand in a place higher than your enemy so that you intimidate him. In other words, always take the high ground and fight from a position of advantage. The third thing that Musashi advises is to chase your enemy to uncomfortable spaces. Take him to spaces where his footing is awkward and unsure.
Raila has used the Book of Fire very effectively. He has pushed Uhuru Kenyatta into spaces of uncomfortable footing, intimidated all his enemies, and essentially we can bank the following, that Raila gets what Raila wants. However, the Book of Fire has 2 limitations. Limitation number 1, fire has an appetite for things to burn, and that appetite is insatiable. You run out of things to burn, you will have no fire. And that is the reason why he has been demanding for people to resign, because that is a form of firewood that he is using to keep his book of fire burning. The second thing is that fire is either destructive or can be constructive. However, in my thinking, we do not know what his constructive agenda for fire has been. The destructive aspect, we can tell you, Raila knows what he does not want, but we don't know essentially what he wants.
It has become a cult with an idol whom you must worship. Sasa tunaona udikteta mpya ambapo hawezi hata kuvumilia shutuma. Mtu ambaye hawezi kuvumilia hata shutuma hawezi kuvumilia pia uongozi.
The Musashi Book of Water. Water takes the shape of its vessel. The Book of Water is about adaptation. It is about the present. The past is not real, and the future is yet to happen. It is just an idea. Some people begin with the end in mind, but get stuck and join the rosiness and the comfort of the end. As a strategist, you can have a victory with a long weapon or a short weapon. The way of victory is the spirit of the fight, whatever the weapon. The spirit always triumphs over weaponry.
From the Book of Water, we should take only one element. That's the element of imagination. And we must proffer the following regarding God. That there are 3 imagination errors. Error number 1, Wetangula and Kalonzo have imagined that they are equal to Raila. That's a big fat lie. Although all the core principles in God are equal, one of them is more equal than the others. Error number 2, arising out of imagination. Raila Odinga believes that because he has worked with these disparate politicians for the last 3 years, that their loyalty to him is guaranteed. That's a lie, because their loyalty is only rented. And I say so because you can never buy a politician. You can only rent one. Once the rent is over, they vamoose. And in the case of the 2 of them, one of them or both of them will at some point abandon Raila Odinga. Error number 3, Raila Odinga, because of the support he has begun to imagine himself as president. And he's also begun acting as president. And if he will be forced into early retirement, it is because of that particular delusion. Because when you start acting as president, you also develop an aura of arrogance.
The book of ground. Using the wisdom of strategy, think of the enemy as your own troops. When you think in this way, you can move him at will and must be able to chase him around. You become the general and the enemy becomes your troops.
If indeed Raila has developed an appetite for accolades, an appetite for platitudes, an appetite for quote jests and quote poets, then Uhuru Kenyatta is using that particular appetite to weaken him in 2 ways. One, by constantly referring to him as prime minister, a position that does not exist and a position that is not there. He is making Raila comfortable in a delusion. And so long as Raila continues to delude himself that indeed he is prime minister, a position that is not there, then the fire in his belly to fight is reduced. That's number one. The second thing that I think Uhuru is doing with this is that he has allowed him very subtly to appear like he's running a shadow government. And so long as Raila believes that what he runs from Capitol Hill is pretty much a shadow government, then he becomes content with a shadow government, and his fight for the actual government tends to reduce. And this is basically the danger of accolades. And this is what this book of the ground is talking about. That a leader who enjoys the accolades will only be treated as a troop by a more superior general.
The Musashi Book of Wind. Speed is not part of the true way of strategy. A man who masters strategy does not appear fast. Sometimes slow is fast. Your spirit should not be influenced by that of your opponent. When your opponent is hurrying recklessly, you must act contrary by keeping calm.
The Book of Wind is about speed. And speed in war is not a virtue at all. And that is the reason why we must not be too quick to attempt to retire Raila, like the opinion polls just told us the other day. Having said that, then, we must record two things. Number one, Raila will not retire. That's a fact. You can take that to the bank. Raila will have to be retired. Come 2022, Raila will run against Ruto. Come 2032, Raila will run with whoever will have been left by Ruto to run. And that story will continue until Raila is normal. He is not going anywhere. He is not retiring. This man was born to run for presidency and to run for it and miss it every time he does so. First. Second thing, the man is slow punctured. And if he is slow punctured, he will retire anyway, because the pressure in the puncture will grow and the tire will become flat and he'll not be able to move. So why hurry him?